and have one of our friends, Andrew Takyi Appiah, joining us from across the pond. Andrew and a whole bunch of others are joining us. God, give us wisdom, give us grace, give us endurance, and especially this week of Thanksgiving. We thank you for our lives, the life of our loved ones, and thank you that this evening will be a blessed one to the glory of your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And thank you very much, Mr. Ahilija.
Anything for you, Senior Tim.
All right, so I think in our program, the next this thing is to listen to the school's anthem. Is our sound engineer ready to let us hear the school's anthem to motivate all of us? All right, thank you very much to our sound engineer. It's always inspiring to hear the school's anthem. I think it has inspired us for a long time whilst we were in school and after school. To start with the program, I'm going to be introducing our host or guest for tonight, Mr. Andrew Takyi Appiah. Andrew is the co-founder and director of Zeepay. In fact, the more I hear about Zeepay, the more I understand that it's one of the big upcoming tech and financial institutions, which is worldwide. And I was very impressed to hear that Andrew, a very young APSUian, is the co-founder and the director. His background shows that he's an expert in mobile payments with over 15 years of experience in banking and business development. And it looks like his experience has spanned through working from very big companies. He's been involved in world marketing with companies such as Nescafe. He's held some very impressive positions in a lot of these companies. He has held various positions as being the brand manager of Nescafe. He's had roles as the head retail, head corporate manufacturing business, head transaction banking, general manager of strategy, general manager of business performance. He's worked with, like I said before, Nestle, Barclays UK, GT Bank, EcoBank, UT Bank, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. These are all very impressive credentials for relatively a very young man. So it's something that we as APSUians would deeply appreciate. It looks like in his spare time, he gives speeches and gives intros to about like mobile payments. as we all know, mobile payments are very important in the third world, in our developing countries, because it allows both rural folks and everybody else an opportunity without necessarily be going to the bank to get involved in payments all around. He has experience both working in the United States, in the UK, and in Africa. And in Africa, he's been in various countries such as Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Zambia, Malawi, and South Africa. Those are all countries that I'm hoping one day I'll get a chance to visit. But this young man has already been there, worked there, probably contributed somehow, somewhere in this country's economies by the work he's done. So this is a brief introduction. It's my greatest privilege and honor to introduce such a young, aspiring APSUian. I'm sure there's more accomplishments to come his way. Again, I just want to thank the executive for making all these things possible for us to get to know folks like this. This program is probably one of the most inspiring programs, and I've watched most of it. And to be in the 6th session of it, it's just great. And I'm sure there's more to come. It allows us to get to know each other as APSUians, to acknowledge each other and appreciate the accomplishments of what we are all doing and contributing to the world. So, Andrew, it's my honor to welcome you to this program. And I'll ask that if you have anything else you would want to add to my introduction to you, please do so now.
Senior Steve, thank you very much. I'm actually rather very honored, and the pleasure is all mine to be on the platform. I feel very privileged. I think you've said more than enough. I'm typically a very shy person, so I won't say much, but I'm here. You have me tonight, and I'm excited to be here.
Great. Then this is just going to be like, initially it's going to be just an open conversation between the two of us. Yeah, this is a conversation between APSU 94 and APSU 75. And APSU, all the years, are listening in and probably would have some questions before the program is over. So we normally would like to start with your life before you even came to Augusco. How was your life? How was family life? How was everything with you before you came to Augusco?
Okay, so again, thank you very much. On my side, I think I'll take it from the angle of how I ended up in St. Augustine. So my father, who I think is part of 56 group, went to St. Augustine's. At some point, he was a NEC president, and as far as I could read and write, it was always St. Augustine's I was going to go to. So I had the privilege of going to Engelbert School and then St. Joseph's before coming to St. Augustine's. And growing up, my whole life was about St. Augustine's. I remember when I think I was about 8 years old, and we went for one of the those days we used to have APSU events at Christ the King, where everybody comes, all students, all those students will come. And I remember drinking the whole crate of Coke, believe it or not. And getting sick for almost 2 months. I still drink Coke. I'm still very addicted to Coke. Otherwise, prior to that, I have 5 sisters that those who went to Augusco know quite well, because I guess they were quite famous. In terms of my life, this is the angling of my life before coming to Augusco. What brought me here? The Augusco days were quite rudimentary. They were quite strict, rigid. Some of us had multiple lives in St. Augustine. So the first 3 years were very serious years for me, very focused, very settled in. The last 2 years leading to Form 5 were very exciting, very interesting. I think I grew up in a world where learn hard, have fun. I guess it's a big Augusco thing. work well, study hard, make sure you also have a lot of fun. So I had a lot of fun. I had my first share of the cake before I got out into the world.
That's interesting. So usually if you go to Augusco, most likely you do have a nickname, right? For example, my nickname was Alan Steele. For a long time, most of my mates didn't know my real name, which I really didn't like before. It was Timothy. And I didn't like the way people pronounced it. They would say Timothy and all kinds of things, so I didn't like it. So most people didn't know that I was Timothy until later in life. Everybody knew me as Alan Steele. Yeah. So what was your nickname?
So I had several. Form 1, I had Ochinameu, I had Akulenge.
Ochinameu, excuse me, hold on. Ochinameu, you must have been very skinny or something.
I was very skinny and very sickly.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I was asthmatic. Those who know me will tell you I was a very bad asthmatic. And so I was always down with asthma. I think it's once or twice a week I was down with asthma. I think I was a frequent guest of the infirmary and also frequent user of the stretcher.
Okay.
So, but then I think by Form 2, the real nickname was coming out. So I finished Augusco with the nickname Rizzo.
Rizzo. And what's the basis of that? How did you get that nickname?
I don't remember, you know.
All right. But stuck with you.
In town, everybody just called him Rizzo.
Okay.
And it stayed with me.
All right. So what are some of your, let's say, just a few of your seniors you remember because of certain things they did, and maybe a few of your mates who you became very close to, and maybe some escapades you might have experienced?
Escapades, we had a lot of them. We had so many escapades. You can write a whole book on escapades. But the seniors, I remember too, a lot of them. But one particular one that if he's online, I guy hello. If he's not senior guy, I salute. So there was a senior called senior guy, Ellison Osufojo. Ellison was, I think, 2 years ahead of us. So when we were in Form 1, he was in Form 3. And I used to save at Ralobi, Shasta, Pozo, Tonimenta. I used to keep at Johnson and Next. And I guess he used to beat him a lot. And sometimes when they finished beating him, then they would let him wash our plates when we finished eating. He used to get very upset about it. Rightly so, he had the right to be upset. And so he had meant me all his life. And I think when Form 5, he was in lower 6, ran out of school to go have fun, came back very drunk, and were being chased on the school field by Father Mensa. Like, there was a whole ambush. And so I was in Joseph's house. On the way up, a guy was leading the pack to find us, basically. And obviously he knew how to find us because he knew where we would be at. So on my way up, climbing the window from John's to my window upstairs in Joseph's, I figured with a guy making all the noise, maybe I should go hide under his bed. So I spent a good 13 hours under his bed because that's the last place he would look for me. And that's how I made that night without being suspended from school.
That is so smart.
That if he gets me, I'm done, basically.
Yeah.
So yes, I remember a guy. Otherwise, there's so many escapades. I remember Jazzy B. There's one time my friend Milano and I were run out. We were quite naughty in Form 4, Form 5, like most of us anyway. And Jazzy B will grab us at National. The rest is history, basically. Tagore, Sakato, we will have to dash our chop boxes to be able to survive. I mean, life was tough. I can't forget them all. Otherwise, in terms of my mates, I think we have a group, so we're quite active. I stay in touch with quite a number of us. My very good friend Barry, he lives in London. Martin is on, I think Martin is online. Rusty and I went to Form 1 together. We're very good friends from Form 1. In fact, we sat next to each other, Form 1 right to Form 3, until we split. Bahani, Douglas Atamenta, Abashi, the gang. I lived in Tesano, North Kaneshi. We're pretty close. So sometimes we could fill a whole bus. So we're a whole community, basically. And we're still very much in touch. So that group too is very active.
That's nice. I'm glad you're able to keep in touch with your mates, and I believe senior guy might be listening. So
I'm sure he will hear because I see Bastilus is online.
Oh, okay. All right. So when you went to Augusco, who was your favorite teacher in a way, by the way?
Erastus Things. And you know, the reason is I love geography so much. And he used to deal with me, he used to film me. And I was hell bent on doing well. So me and him came to truce and it worked for us. And I came out very well. So I loved him very well. I mean, you know, if there's one person who made me find determination in life, Erastus Things will be one of those people. I actually did very well in geography after I came out of those issues with him. O-level was wonderful. So yes, Erastus Things. Otherwise, of course, McGregor, our Latin master, all the rhymes, all the exciting rhymes, all the Latin he taught us will become of use as we grow up. My latter years in life, I found it so useful, either because I'm in a country and I have to learn the language. And you know, when you have Latin as a base, it's very easy for you to learn languages, especially Spanish, French, etc. I lived in Rwanda for a bit, and my life in all those French countries, my appreciation for Latin that really helped me do that. Quite frankly, I think St. Augustine is one of those places that if you go and you apply yourself and you integrate into the system, I feel like you come out of it with a lot of multi-skills, or what I call life skills, which eventually help you. So Latin helped me a lot. German, I did German, Mr. Kwame, we called him. That was also good. Then, of course, Abe man, because he was always drunk and I never need to pass a maths class.
That's interesting, and that leads us very well into the next phase of your life after you left Augusco. You know, and maybe there you can also integrate some of your experiences, just like you did in Augusco, that helped you in life after Augusco. So where did you go after Augusco?
So after St. Augustine's, so in sixth form, I came back to sixth form. I didn't write A-level in Augusco though. I was deboardized, so I decided to write A-level in Accra. Then right after that, I went to school in England. So obviously I lived in England for a while in the struggle against injustice and privileges. You know, England comes at you with everything. It levels you, then it gives you the struggle, then it gives you the privileges. I finished university, then I worked for the Commonwealth Secretariat for a bit. I had the opportunity to work with the Commonwealth Secretariat. Commonwealth Secretariat has a platform called CFTC. Now, CFTC is very much like their UNDP. So if you know the Commonwealth, the English Commonwealth. So I worked for CFTC, and my role was mainly responsible for working with the countries, we call them the markets, to find opportunities they need funding from, and then basically working with the other side of the role was working with basically the likes of the ambassadors to make sure that if they have the projects that the Secretariat can fund, then we fund it. So I did that for a while. Then I got a secondment into, so it's interesting. What it is that my boss, the guy called John Knowles, very wonderful guy, him and a lady called Krishna Naidu, they used to have so much drama. And I guess when the elephant flies, the grass suffers. So basically, Krishna decided that she wasn't going to renew my contract. I was fired. So my contract not being renewed, John got me a job with the Metropolitan Police, Cobalt Square. So they were actually planning on digitalizing the police fees and fines collection. So I got onto the project. And that's actually my first exposure to the world of fintech. So I liked it. Obviously, then it wasn't called fintech, it was just called payments. I liked the project, it was quite exciting. So when the project was over, my life started to look into that realm, basically. Then I left and went to school in America. I went to do my master's. I was on the West Coast for a bit.
What school did you go in the States?
I went to UCLA.
Okay.
I did a program in brand management, brand identity management, actually. So as part of their management program, I decided to focus on brands because I obviously did business management for my undergrad. So did that, lived on the West Coast for a bit, then found love. Love brought me to the East Coast, but life was tough. I mean, life in America was hard for me, man. Shit. So I lived. I used to
share
live
some of your
in
experiences. What made it so hard for you?
I lived in Woodbridge, Virginia. I remember my first mattress that I slept on in America. I got it from the rubbish bin. It was just tough. I'd come from California. I hadn't figured it out. My friend Jagger was around, so Jagger and I used to hang around a lot. But it was just tough. I didn't have a job. And you know, in America, when you don't have a job, it can be tough. Hey, a friend of mine told me about the neighbor discarding a mattress. I got that mattress, and then I started life slowly. And then somehow my brother-in-law got cancer. He actually went to Augusco, by the way. Judah Chogbe. He got cancer. He was not feeling well. So I was getting married. I decided, why don't I come in early and see if I can help? So I came in to help a bit. Then while I was on ground, my mom died. My mom died in 2003. 2004. So actually, she died in my arms. Very painful experience. And I suppose I became a man overnight. So after that dreadful experience, I mean, watching your mom die, it's not something I wish on anybody. But after
that's gotta be a tough thing to go through.
It was pretty chilling, and it was tough. After that experience, I picked up myself and started to find my level. But prior to that, whilst in America, I used to sell Kente stoles. So I don't know if you know about Kente stoles, but most universities the Black universities will use Kente stoles. So it became a product. I used to have a website called kentefabrics.com. And that's what I used to do. I was hustling clean. It was a clean hustle. Obviously not finding a job, that became my hustle basically. And I did it quite well. I grew my business quite well. I got a big job with Clark Atlanta University, and that sort of set me back at the same time because it required me to come home to make sure I can get a product. I mean, I had a production of about 20,000 pieces, the biggest I've ever got. So I needed to come and supervise it. I was in Bon area for a while. I was in the Kente areas for a while. I mean, the guys took like 6 months. Well, when they paid us, Bank of America shut down our company account. That's how bad things had gotten. But hey, we found our level again. So that's some of my experiences. Did that, and then of course came back home. When I came back home, prior to my mom dying, I got into juice business. I used to distribute pineapple juice for Milani. So I had a truck, and I used to load it and sell pineapple juice. Very, very interesting experience, though. Very short, but very interesting experience. Did it for a while. Obviously, my mom died, and I had to go back. So I went back to the States, finished school. Then I got a job with Nestle, obviously because of my brand management background, to come back to be a brand manager, which my father sort of encouraged me to come back. He was like, look, life. My dad felt like if I came back home, I'll be 10 feet taller. He felt like if I came back home, it's all better than being out there in that community where you have to prove yourself every day. But of course, different strokes for different people. I'm sure most people have done so well, but product for the American system. I clearly wasn't a product for the American system. So I came back home, worked for Nestle. The Nestle experience was a good one, actually. Very good. I had a bit of a culture shock because I also realized that when I came back home and I started working, I realized that beyond secondary, brotherhood and bonding is formed at university. And obviously, we who didn't go to university locally were out.
Looks like the screen is frozen a little bit for Andrew.
So yes, you had your Augusco fraternity around, but you're also an outsider because they went to form a new bond at university, which women that I have a huge. I did it for a while. Then I'm trying to learn my father's footsteps. My father was a banker. He was a very senior banker. Very son, yes, and I didn't want to join that father. Well, hence the reason why I took the marketing route as well, not the finance route. But
looks like you're breaking up, Andrew. Can you hear me?
I can hear you though.
Okay. All right, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I don't know where did we cut off? So I can continue from there.
I think we got a gist of it because you were going in and out. So we did get a gist of it. You went back to Ghana and you realized.
So I came back to Ghana. I came back to Ghana and then I realized that, like I was telling you, I had a bit of a culture shock on Nestle. And it's because I found out that beyond secondary school, the bonds are formed at university. And so I obviously didn't have a bond because most of my colleagues were basically people who went to University of Ghana Tech or Kivas, and they had formed new bonds. So they had new relationships and were the outsiders. So that 2006 was a year of introspection for me. And not just me, most people came around that time would go through that same phase. But I pulled through it, and I was trying to explain to you that I was also one of those people who didn't want to follow my father's footsteps. My father was a very senior economist and banker in the country. I was the only son he had by my mom. I was the youngest of 6 children. I had 5 siblings who were girls. So I did everything to avoid that by going into marketing. Then I had the opportunity to meet a gentleman, a very nice Nigerian gentleman called Dolapo, who at the time was MD of GT Bank. I was trying to sell a product to him. And he said, look, he loves my skills. He wants me to work for him. So that's how I got into banking, and I became the head of retail banking for GT Bank. And that's where my journey will start from. But maybe I'll pause here. I don't know if you have a question. I think I'm talking too much.
No. You know, I was transfixed. I was listening to you because some of your experiences are very powerful and they're very emotional too. So we could feel the emotion of you losing your mother and the way it came about. And I just want you to know personally, and maybe you're representing all the Augustinians on this platform right now, we want to give you our sincerest condolences. And we're just proud of you as an Augustinian that you were able to go through it and still move on with your life and continue doing well. Because some people get crippled by such emotional experiences, but you've been able to rise above that, and we're very thankful that you're a strong man and you've moved on. We hope your experiences in Augusco has also helped you to toughen things up. And it's interesting experiences you've shared. You know, some people would see you as a successful man and wouldn't know all the trials and tribulations you went through to get to where you are.
That's true.
We are happy you're sharing that to us, and we appreciate it.
Well, I think life in itself humbles you, as I've come to find that in the journey of life, as you straddle along and higher you go, the humble you become. It's just because of multiple experiences, I don't know, the trauma has a way of building you. So as positive things got a way of calming you down. But even with the Nestle culture shock, there was a big one, a huge one. And I got to know the other side of Ghana when I came home. Otherwise, I came home in high spirits. I was very chuffed. I was coming from grad school. I was ready. Little did I know, I didn't understand the terrain, but I was very ready though. I was ready. I was chuffed up. I was very exposed. I'd done a lot of stuff with Shell, with Anheuser-Busch as a student on campus. You know, we do a lot of these consulting programs. I'd finished top of my class. I was really ready. I was ready. And then I come in and, ooh, the breaks. But it toughened me. I think the experiences of Augusco even made me stronger. I remember the days in school when we'll get into trouble and people laughing at you. All those moments, you relive them again. And you relive them in a different way. And it makes you a stronger person.
Yeah.
I remember that at some point, the whole organogram of Nestle, the marketing team, the organogram had to be changed. So people like me have to be humbled. I was being moved from being a brand manager to become a sales officer who stacked shelves. And I was like, look, maybe the time has come for me to move on. But I tell you what, I found God along the line. I found the Lord, and I've had a wonderful experience with the Lord all these years. So maybe my tenacity and my sustenance also came through the Lord. And I've never looked back from that experience. And maybe that's why I was able to go through it. I finally decided to leave Nestle when the human system decides to make a decision like that. I'm like, okay, well, I've lost trust in such a system. I can't be part of it. But it was good for me because it made me also come to realize what corporate is and what corporate institutions are like on our side of the world as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so it might be a white man's country, but when it's a black, whatever you do, once it's in a black man's world, it's a black man's country.
Yeah.
And hey, that those experiences, I think, have made me a better person. It's made me a fighter. It's made me one who's able to navigate and understand emotions. I had to become emotionally intelligent to survive.
Yeah, and then we talk about that in education these days, that emotional intelligence is very, very important, so I'm glad that kind of transitions us very beautifully into your current life, where you are today. Maybe I don't know if you're building a family for yourself and your wife and children, and professionally where you are, especially with the current company that you're part of, that you're part owner. If you can take it from where you just left off and just give us that summary of where you are today, that would be very helpful.
Okay, so I'll take it from another angle, which I really hope it would help we Augustinians on this call. Mm-hmm. So I joined GT Bank. I went to Echo. I was poached by Albert Asian to EcoBank. Mm-hmm. I never knew this man from anywhere, but again, he really supported my career. He went to National. He didn't go to Augusco. You know what I mean? But he was very supportive. Like he believed in me so much, and EcoBank developed me so much. So along the line, my colleague and I had to go and do a job in South Africa. We were actually in the Melrose Arch in Joburg, and very wonderful guy. He's called Julius Richardson. These are great people I met. Julius is a Proseccan. So I would also build my own fraternity, as you can understand, mm-hmm. or my boys' club. And so we were supposed to close the deal for EcoBank with DSTV, and it went very well. It's actually probably the shortest deal we've worked on at the time, because within a matter of 45 minutes, the next 3 days of South Africa was done. So we started asking ourselves some questions. Mobile money had just started. We were in transaction banking, we're responsible for trade, remittances, we're responsible for everything non-funded income based. And non-funded means if it's not a loan, it was our responsibility. So we asked ourselves the $1 million question: how do we start mobile money from a bank's perspective without it sitting on a network and being independent and agnostic? Agnostic means that you ride on your own self and you're not mm-hmm. dependent on anybody. And different conversations came up. The dream was back. This is 2008. I won't get into Zeepay until 2014. But in between that, I met my wife. I'm married. Today we have 3 children, 3 very lovely children. And prior to that, obviously, I was married and divorced. I had a very short stint of marriage, another trauma, another experience. And then after that, I moved on. Then years later, I will meet my wife today. We've been married for about 10 or 11 years now. Mm. What got me into Zeepay, I was just telling you earlier on, was what I was doing. What I was doing at EcoBank would brought me to that point. So my other co-founder is actually my dad. So I started talking to my dad, who lived in Uganda at the time. I lived in Rwanda. I'm like, look, dude, I want to do this. What do you think about it? My father was one of those who always encouraged me, no matter how bad it was. It's like, look, give it a shot. You never know what will come out of it. So we started some conversations all over the place. At the time when I started, I mean, I couldn't see my left to my right, quite frankly. But today, this business has evolved so much.
Looks like you're breaking up again, Andrew.
We do $800 million in turnover. We live in London. I went off Africa.
Hey, Andrew, you broke up at the point where you were talking about your father. You were in.
Okay.
He was in Uganda. You were in Rwanda.
So can you hear me now? So
yeah, we
yes,
can hear you loud and clear now.
Yeah. I was in Rwanda at some point. EcoBank moved me to Uganda. So Uganda, we had a big job. We're just opening up our first bank as EcoBank in Uganda, and we needed to win a bid with the customs. So I was sent in there to run transaction banking and make sure the deal closed. I was a guy who basically made the deals closed. So we had a big deal. We closed it. It was quite exciting. Then I started talking to my dad. Look, I want to do this. What does he think? It was very encouraging, very supportive. Said he thinks I should do it. Obviously, it didn't take off immediately. I will come back and come and work for PwC. At PwC, I had a very interesting experience, which was going to lead me to what I'll become eventually. So at PwC in 2012, October, I was actually appointed the deputy managing director of National Investment Bank. And PwC had celebrated me. I was leaving. This is Friday. On my way to the house, I get a call from NIB that they cannot continue with employment because when they did a check on me, they did an x-ray. So those of you are doctors, they did an x-ray on me. And this was about 15 years ago, probably. And it came up as having cognitive heart failure, so they don't want to recruit me. First of all, that's the biggest bunch of bull I've ever had in my life. You cannot determine a person's health, so more so heart condition from a still picture. You need an echocardio. So I had a bit of row with them. We went back and forth. And a very wise Apsunian, very old Apsunian, who was on the board at the time, called me and said, you know what, leave them and let them ride. It's obviously because of politics. You're probably not one of them, and they want to give it to one of them. Another culture shock. So I get a call the Monday. So the Friday, I call my boss back, Felix Addo, very wonderful gentleman at PwC. He says, come to work in your suit like you never left. I know that I'll cover you. So I went to work on Monday. My nickname for the next 2 years was the MD, the MD who never was. So I was the biggest joke at the work, but hey, I kept my head down. I was probably one of their best, so they took me back. And I got a call from Kofi Amabian, a disco boy, who says, hey, you know what? IFC has just funded my business. I need a local person who understands the terrain to come and help me with transformation. So I did a stint. I helped them 2013, 14. In 2014, I registered my business. Then I told them I'll be leaving in 2015. So in 2015, I launched Zeepay that December, and I left on the 1st of January 2016 to start my new world. That new world, it was myself and my colleague. She was called Adjo, a very wonderful lady. At the time, she was running operations. It was really hassle. It was a straight hassle. So I get paid, then I pay her. I had a second job. So I worked my second job, and then in the evening from about 4 to about 9 p.m., I worked Zeepay. So I did this with Adjo for a while. And it's through that process we started to grow. Today, we have a huge balance sheet. Our balance sheet is worth about, in city terms, 100 million. Our turnover is about $800 million. It's been a 5-year journey. For those of you who don't know what we do, I like to put it, we run a twin engine strategy. So we do both remittances and mobile money. So until we came on the market in Africa, when you get your remittances, you got to go to a bank. And then you sit in a bank, and then the bank will use a swivel chair approach. Swivel chair means the guy literally sits on a swivel chair, turns himself, waits for another hour, somebody comes back, and then they pay you. it just wasn't working. So I said, look, why don't we disrupt it? So I came in to disrupt that. So we started by paying remittances into mobile money wallets. Those of you who live in America, what mobile money wallets are like electronic money wallets, basically. We did that. We've been very successful at that. Then we added bank accounts to it. Then we added Visa cards to it. Today we're the biggest. Today we're the biggest. For those of you who want to know what we do, you can check out our competitors. So we compete with a company called Tunes. We compete with a company called MFS Africa. And we compete with a company called Zeepay. Out of these 4 companies, we are the largest on the continent. We control the corridors that we terminate in. We're the lead. The next to us probably about maybe another 30% market share.
Wow.
Every day it's a struggle, but it's a good struggle. Today we have our own corporate building in Cantonment, actually, which was built by an Augustinian. He's called Gibson. Quite frankly, I don't think I met him in Augusco. Actually, no, I did, because his year group is doing the speech day next year. So he's actually a contractor, very, very, very solid gentleman. And then he brought an architect who's also an Augustinian. So the whole project was an Augusco Augustinian project. We used 22 weeks to build, because either we built or we had to pay rent again in 2021. But I said, we had enough. We're tired of that. In between this journey, we've been in many offices. I remember when we used to be in a shared office space where we had to wait for clients, we had to wait for our partners to almost finish work before we can start work. Because it's a very small space and we're about 5, and so we always had to wait. But we just remain consistent and tenacious. I think for us, the biggest thing is being tenacious, being able to look ahead and say, look, we wait for the big day to happen. I remember the journey, the challenges with various regulators, trying to explain to regulators in the UK, in Ghana, what we're trying to do and how it's different and how it's even safer. But today, it's a big story. We have about 80 staff. We also have mobile money. So for those of you who know about mobile money, our twin engine, we run mobile money as well. We needed to do that at some point, because when we started, we're terminating the remittances into third-party wallets. And we knew that it was only a function of time before they come after us. So we applied for a license in 2016. And in 2020, the government gave us approval. So we took it to market. Today, we have about 1.2 million subscribers, and we're growing. So we compete with MTN, we compete with Vodafone, and we compete with Airtel. For those of you entrepreneurs, my encouragement to you is it's possible. You can do it. Just have one plan and keep at it. And just keep at it, but just be tenacious.
And that's what all the time you're talking, I was thinking about how it feels like to first of all work for a company and now be your own employer. You know, what's the major difference that you see in that? You know.
Well, it's humbling. For me, it's humbling because you're responsible for everybody. So you got to live your life right. You got to live your life above board. You almost have to keep your opinions to yourself. It can be lonely, but it can be fun. We're a very young team. So the mean age in the building is 24 years old. I'm the oldest, but what we've also done is we've brought in a few experienced hands consultants who will work with us. So our CFO, who's our permanent CFO today, was a consultant. We brought in very, very experienced people from the bank, StanChat, to come and run our ops and tech platform, guiding us on what to do. HR, we did the same thing as well. So it's really just different things we did to make it right. I tell you, building a company from ground zero, it's tough.
Yeah,
building a regulated business is tough. I spent, at least in a month, I spent 2 weeks with regulators across the continent, explaining the story, making them appreciate. Currently, we have mobile money licenses in 4 countries. Ivory Coast is the most recent. We're looking to start in January. And you are responsible for people, so you live your life in a different way. That's what I mean by as you go up, you become calm. You start to live life, look at life from a different pair of lens.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the hour allotted to us for our conversation. But before we open it up to those who are joining us online, I just have a question regarding your footprint. How's your footprint or the Zeepay footprint in America? Because I had briefly heard about Zeepay, but I don't seem to have heard a lot of people talk about Zeepay in America. So
in America, you won't find us on the front end, but you'll find us. Everybody who transfers money in America, one way or the other, still use our platform. If you've heard of Sendwave, if you've heard of World Remit, if you've heard of TapTap, if you've heard of Remitly, if you've heard of Intermix, Sikaka, Shaka, on Omnex, so many generics. MoneyGram, of course, MoneyGram is one of our big partners. We're an official carrier for most of these guys. The only partner we don't carry for in America is Western Union. So what I mean by carry is, for those of you who've ever traveled abroad with your US phone and you've roamed on your phone, when you come to Ghana and you're roaming, during the period of your roaming, it's not AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile that's actually supporting you. It's a carrier that is supporting you. So in that same thing, we're financial carrier. So we're a carrier for financial services.
Okay.
And basically, so we carry all the US traffic except for Western Union's traffic.
All right. So you're not like a direct payment system, because I went looking for you to see maybe if there was an app you could download and make your payments. Because
so in the US, you won't find that front end. But
how about in
we
Ghana?
have a lot of work in progress to be in the DMV. We're hoping to be in the DMV by March. By March next year. We're actually in the middle of a raise. So we're doing a fundraise. We're currently sitting on a huge valuation, and we're hoping to be able to turn that into a lot of money in this round so that we can actually get our official license in the US.
Okay. All right. Before we open up again, I have one more thing that I need to ask of you. What are the long-term goals for Zeepay and for yourself?
Okay, so in the long term, short to long term, we have some of it is so proprietary. I'm limited to talk about it because obviously there are press issues around it. But very short term, long term in the UK, those in England and Europe should look out for us. We have a huge proposition coming up in the UK, which will solve a problem. So for us, what we do is we try to solve a problem all the time. Long term, 2 to 3 years, we want to be the largest mobile financial services partner in all the markets we're operating in Africa. We've just entered Caribbean. We've just finished Barbados. We're licensing across Guyana, Trinidad, Grenada, and Jamaica. So in terms of long term, that's where we are. We're looking to close at Series A this year and then a B next year, and then Series C list on the New York Stock Exchange. So that's sort of our long term tends to be the next 3 years, basically.
All right. Okay. Yeah. My final question, and it's not like a question and answer between you. It's just me and you having a conversation. Everybody else is listening. So, what advice do you have for some of our struggling brothers or those who have like an intent to start your own business and maybe scared because you're never assured of income when you have your own business or something, at least during the initial phase of it. So like some of us, we're very comfortable with working for somebody else, like either civil servants or working in another person's company. What advice would you have for those who want to venture out?
Well, so I think for me, my advice to everybody, to my friend, I mean, look, quite respectfully, I'm rather humbled. I've seen a lot of names that I know very well, and thank you for listening to people like myself, respectfully. But don't look back. start, but as you start, look for partnerships and collaborations, because that's probably the easiest and fastest way to get into the market. Also, do not go after premium, because in going after premium, you probably won't get there fast enough. Well, actually the fastest growing fintech on the continent, and it's just because we did a lot of collaborations and partnerships. So sometimes partner together, sometimes collaborate together, sometimes look into building ecosystems as well. And don't look back. I mean, you're talking to somebody who used to have his name in a car park when he goes to work in the morning. But yes, it's hard. It's been a hard journey, but it pays off. It's really a function of time. So if you want to do it, start, don't look back. For those of you who want to come back home, I also say this is a time to come back home. I'm actually very committed to helping. So anybody who wants to come back home, I'm actually ready to help you build a bridge to do that. And for my year group on the call, and even all Absinians, one of the things that I'm doing in the long term is that when I close my round, which should be closed by January, I'm looking to commit $100,000 to set up an endowment fund in my father's name. And it's for Absinians people who want to go to St. Augustine's or St. Augustine's and can't afford school fees and need help, to be able to help them. Like I said, it gets to a certain point in life, you just want to give. You're just committed, because it's quite humbling when 4.2 million people use your service. You want to give back. You recognize immediately you need to give back.
Yeah. And you know what, there's one thing that you said in the course of your our discussion that stuck with me. That was that you're out there to solve problems, you know. So where you see a problem, then you try to look for the solution to that problem, and that right there creates that business model that you might be creating. So I that stuck with me quite well, and I think it's very, very interesting, you know. So
yeah, and I think so. Look, I think giving back is a big thing. When we started, since we started, every year we throw in supporters into Gaston Speech Day. Every year we do that. For me, it's just so that we're mindful that we need to give back. Okay, and like I'll tell you the product we have a micro insurance product, which is common in the inner cities in the UK. At the US, we haven't started selling it yet. It's as cheap as $1 or £1. And when you buy it just for a month, you can actually insure your loved one up to $1,000, dreadful diseases, accidental death, and death. Why are we doing that? Because we recognize that the aspirant, a lot of time when people die, you're the ones they call upon to come and contribute. So imagine if that old lady has life insurance and costs only $1 and they will buy a coffin. Why not? That's changing people's life, just changing the narrative.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Now we're gonna open up for questions from our audience. I think our system is set up such that you can either post your question in the chat, or you can raise your hand.
I see somebody's in Barbados here, actually. Wow.